There's a difference between being in real estate and then being in luxury real estate and then being in one of the best brokerages arguably in the world.
Selling the OC star Brandi Marshall found herself at the center of a controversy that made headlines across the entertainment industry.
The drama's real.
That's like, oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, we're just like very vulnerable and we're putting ourselves out there in front of the world for you guys.
How did you kind of work your way up into working for the Oppenheim Group? Because I'm sure there's so many realtors out there that want to be in your position.
I will spend 12 hours in the office at the Oppenheim Group and it'll feel like I was there for 2. But when I had that 9 to 5, when I tell you at 4:55, I was like, my purse is packed, I'm ready to go. I don't think there's a big enough salary in the world. It's just like being an entrepreneur is just a different type of beast, and like it just like it kind of like lights a little fire in me. It's exciting.
Welcome to School Didn't Teach You This, episode 4. I'm very excited to have a fantastic guest with me today. If you have seen the show on Netflix, it's called Selling OC, and I'm not afraid to say this is my favorite person from Selling OC. I feel like my vibe, my energy, I'm very chilled and very laid back. I feel like she also matches that energy. So I'm excited to introduce you to Brandi Marshall for episode 4. Thanks for coming on.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I mean, I appreciate that because I am chill. I am laid back, and I'm just real, you know. Yep. And it's an interesting journey, but I'm glad to be on here and, you know, speaking about real estate and my life and just how TV and real estate intertwine.
So let's jump into it. I think the first thing that a lot of people would like to know is what was the process of getting onto Selling OC, right? And being on a Netflix show.
Oh, it was like a rolling of the dice. It wasn't any process. There wasn't any like anything that happened where I was like trying for this to happen to me. Yeah. I literally had just moved to Orange County about 2 months prior to joining the Oppenheim Group. And I heard about the show, obviously, but I met someone that was telling me that, hey, you know, they're hiring agents. And one thing about me is that I've always wanted to be in luxury real estate from the moment I got licensed. I didn't know how, because I was selling houses out in Victorville. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yep.
Victorville, $200,000 houses. And I was like, I want to make it to luxury. Well, my husband and I moved to Orange County. So I was like, well, here I am. I'm going to make it to luxury. That's the perfect luxury brokerage. Come to find out they're having a show.
Yeah.
They wanted me on the show. And then that's how that happened.
So I guess, okay, so you are now currently on Selling OC on Netflix, but prior to that, what was your journey to real estate? I'm assuming real estate lends to your personality, but I know that you studied PR right before this. So what was it that got you into real estate in general?
So initially, I got my degree in communications and I was a publicist in LA. So I lived out here for about 7 or 8 years. And that was great. You know, I was an entertainment publicist. You know, I was moving and shaking and rubbing shoulders with all these people, trying to help them become stars, you know, basically. And it was really exciting until I had children. Right. And I realized that I was always out at night, you know, because I'm going to these events all the time. And it was just, I don't know, the lifestyle just didn't suit me anymore. And also like that is a really tough industry as well. And I just had like dollar signs in the back of my mind. And I was like, how can I make a really, really good living for myself, but also be available for my children whenever I want? And something like a little alarm went off in my mind because my grandmother sold real estate when I was when I was like 5 years old. I would be in the back of her Mercedes and she was just like boss collecting rent, like, and I didn't know what she did, but all I knew was like, she's a boss and like she makes money but she's always around and she's like always, you know what I mean? She's always got Louis Vuitton on. She's all, you know what I mean? I didn't even know what Louis Vuitton was. It was like this brown leather purse. Like she was just very like, she was goals. Right. And I guess I like put that in the back of my mind and think of it. But then once I had children, I was like, I'm going to get into real estate. And not to mention, I had just purchased a house and I was in love with interior design. I was in love with like just looking at homes all the time. I would go in the model homes and like just look at them and get more information from the builders about them and stuff like that. And then I think the final thought was when I purchased my house and I saw how fast that deal closed. And then, you know, you have to sign the paperwork. And I saw how much money the agent made. And I was like, you just made this in 30 days? doing something that like I already like showing people houses, and just like, I'm a people person, and that's, you can tell that because I have a public relations background, right? Like I love to talk to people. I love to connect people. And I'm like, this is literally what they're doing. Like this person just got on the phone and fought for us back and forth with the other agent and just made a really nice check.
It's not only on your property too. They've got probably about 3 or 4 of those closings that month, right?
Yeah. And that was just on one. So I was like, I'm getting my license. So I got my license. I was pregnant with my son at the time. I was studying while I was pregnant, and passed it on the first time. And I was like, let's go.
Okay, so getting into real estate in itself, right?
Yeah.
That's fairly easy, right? The barrier to entry is fairly low. So as far as the exam goes, I believe it's like 3 months.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between being in real estate and then being in luxury real estate and then being in one of the best brokerages arguably in the world, right? So how did you kind of work your way up into working for the Oppenheim Group? Because I'm sure there's so many realtors out there that want to be in your position.
Yes. So for me, it was all about like small steps. And there were times where I had one job and I still had my real estate license, but I had to keep that job just until real estate started like making more money for me.
Right.
And, you know, eventually, obviously, luxury was the goal. I knew that I needed to live in a luxury area, for one, to know my market, for two, because this would be the neighborhood that I would be selling in. So that was a long-term goal. I didn't expect it to happen, but we got an opportunity to move to Orange County. My husband's job was actually in Orange County, and he was commuting.
Right.
So he was like, you know, let's just move there. And I kind of rejected the idea just because I didn't know Orange County, and I think of like Orange County housewives, and I just think of like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in here, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not rich. Yeah, I'm not rich. I'm not like I don't have a dog in my purse. Like, I just didn't feel like I like fit in, you know? Right. And but I had to look at the opportunity, and I was like, you want to get in luxury real estate, that like you would be literally sitting in the middle of what you want. You know what I mean? So we took the leap. I did it. And within about 2 to 3 months of living there, I got my first $1 million listing in Laguna Niguel.
Fantastic.
Sold that. And I was like, whew. As soon as I got that, I was like, okay, I can do this, you know? So, you know, it started off very low, 200,000. And then I was like working under somebody who was also really big. Before I came to the Oppenheim Group, the previous brokerage, he also runs like a mega brokerage, and I was working under him, but I was doing like admin. Like I was doing admin, but I was also selling on the side. So I was able to work at that brokerage and do admin and like listen in and like learn and see how he was doing like prospecting and see how like his systems were set up, as well as sell houses. So it was like kind of like a perfect situation. But then the situation got even better once I was able to level up and go to Oppenheim Group. So, you know, that's just kind of how that happened. It's just like brick by brick. And before you realize it, you kind of take a step back and you're like, oh, shoot, wow. You know what I mean? Like, you know, at times, like I tend to take it for granted that I'm on a show selling homes and selling multi-million-dollar homes at that. You know what I mean? When just a few years ago, I didn't even know that, you know, I pictured myself selling luxury, but I thought I was going to be maybe like 50 or like some like, you know, like older, like, because that's a lot of the times when I run into luxury agents, they are older because that's how long it takes to build a business. Right. You know, so I'm very like fortunate and blessed to get put on a fast track, you know?
It's really interesting you say that actually, because I feel like a big reason as to why a lot of agents that are in luxury are older is because you almost sell to your peers. Yeah. Right. So it's like, if you're looking to sell luxury real estate, those people that can afford luxury real estate are usually going to be older and they've had time to accumulate money. I know. Right. So how is it for you? And because obviously in luxury real estate, you're probably going to be dealing with a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, people who have extensive experience in investments and things of that nature, who've got really strong personalities too, right? Absolutely. So how do you manage like dealing with different personalities, and then also people of different like age groups, or like people that aren't really necessarily your peers when you're doing business?
Yeah, and that is an amazing question, because that is one of the bigger challenges in Orange County. You know, obviously, I'm not the most relatable to them, right? For one, they're not my peers, right? And for two, there isn't that relatability just because, you know, I'm not from OC, so I don't have like all this historical, like, oh yeah, you know, I grew up with my dad, so-and-so. Like, I don't have these like stories that they have. Went to Laguna Beach High School. Like, I don't have that, you know what I mean? So it is a challenge. And I'm myself, you know, and I figured that my clients would be my clients, and people who can recognize a strong work ethic and can recognize that this person knows their stuff and that they're capable. and it doesn't hurt that we have an amazing brand behind us as well, you know, because we can edify our broker, right? And we can say, look at our sales, look at our brokerage's sales. At the end of the day, even though I was newer to luxury real estate, the brokerage isn't, and Jason isn't either. So if I need to bring Jason on a listing to like make sure that, you know, we get it, then that's what I'll have to do in order to
the knockout punch.
Let that one pass by too.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, that was a challenge. When I first moved there, I was like, dude, I don't speak the language. Like, I don't know. But I'm noticing the more events that I go to, the more that I meet people, you just meet people where they're at. And a lot of times it seems more intimidating than it is, because I was extremely intimidated. I'm like, this guy owns all of the Chipotles. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm cold calling somebody. And, you know, obviously, like, agents, we do our research into who people are before we, you know, target them and say, like, this person needs to sell. Like, the title person will give you next seller's list. You go to the next seller's list and you're like, who am I going to call? And you're like, okay, I'm going to call this house because they need to sell. And then you look up the owner and you're like, he owns all of the jets in the world, or like, so, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, something crazy, and you're like instantly intimidated. But then you call this person and you talk to this person and they're like, they're super cool. They're down to earth. They just want their house sold. And if you know your stuff, you're capable. It's what's the problem?
They're another human just like we are. A lot of the time we idolize people and put people on a pedestal, and it's almost unnecessary. I had that situation happen the other day.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the gym, and I go to a nice gym, right? So kind of explains why I bumped into him there. But I was sitting outside the gym and I was talking to my mum on the phone. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm always like running uphill. You know what I mean? Like, things are always really difficult in the sense of like, every time you feel like you've achieved something, it's like, oh no, but I need to be there, right? Yes. And I was on the phone with my mum, and I had her on my AirPods, and I was just chilling, and I was very relaxed, and I sit in this chair, and then I look opposite me, and I'm like, nah. And my mum's on the phone still talking. I'm like, Mum, I'm sitting opposite the founder of Airbnb. Yeah.
Wow.
And she was like, all right, here's what's going to happen. So, you know, you get that level of nervousness, right? Before you speak to someone. She said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hang up and you're going to go speak to him, and then you have to call me back afterwards. Yeah. And I went, yeah, but da-da-da-da.
She's trying to hold you accountable.
She hung up the phone on me. She didn't even let me give an excuse, right? And I was like, oh, damn, I now have to go introduce myself to this dude, right? Yeah. And he was talking to someone, so I didn't even, that was another thing, right? I just walked up to him, interrupted their conversation. I was like, just to let you know, I've been doing a lot of research on Airbnb. I saw your recent interview. Wow. I'm extremely impressed by what you've done. Wow. And I think what you've built is incredible, right? Yeah. And, you know, I just wanted to give you props for it. And he literally, he reached out his hand to shake my hand.
That's so cool.
And I was like, dude's worth $11.4 billion. Wow, this is weird. Jeez. Awesome. Yeah.
That's incredible. See, exactly. Like, it's moments like that. I'm so glad you just told me that story, because like I love hearing motivational things like that, just because it is intimidating knocking on someone's door that owns this $11 million house. You know what I mean? Or things like that, because like a lot of agents at the Oppenheim Group, we go back to brass tacks. Like we are cold callers. We are door knockers, because I'm not from OC. How else am I going to build my sphere? I don't have a sphere. I don't have like people calling me like, hey, my friend, because they don't know me. So I have to introduce myself to them, and I have to like work, you know, earn their business basically. And how else are you going to do that? Show up at their front door.
So let's talk about this, because you're on a Netflix show. Yeah. Right? So the perception is this person is on Netflix. They've got everything so easy. They're killing it. Look at her amazing dress. Look at her doing all these great things. Hanging out with NBA players, selling out, like all these different things, right? There's a level of perception, and then there's reality. It's like, you know, you're doing the exact same thing that an agent would do if they're straight on the scene and they're 21, right?
Absolutely. If not more. Like you said, you came in the office and you saw that I was the only one in there working. Right. Like, sometimes we have to go above and beyond, because there's a pressure now. There's pressure of the world watching us, and we don't get to just like, you know, there's ebbs and flows of real estate, right? Like, you know, at sometimes you might have a deal and you might go like 3 months and then you don't get another deal. Right. But when you're on a show and then the world is watching and you're that representation for people, you're like, I have to make it because I have something to prove. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, I was given this amazing opportunity. I can't just like sleep on it and let it pass me by. So you have to get out there and like go after it and find sellers or find people who want to buy and, you know, do it like that. And no, just because we're on a Netflix show, I mean, for some people it is easier than others. Like if you're an OC native, you know, one of my castmates, his dad is like a powerhouse in OC. Like he's one of the biggest agents in OC. So like for him, like his life is probably totally different than mine. Right. But even for him, like he is going after his own, like making a name for himself. You know what I mean? So we have to go back to the basics. We're marketing. My favorite method of prospecting is handwritten letters.
Right.
Next is cold calling. I love to handwrite letters to people, and it's just a very personal touch. You know what I mean? And it limits how much I can do though, because I'm not like just mass printing out 600 flyers and sending them all over the place. I'm literally handpicking, about 50 people, and I'm interested in your house because of X, Y, and Z, or I actually have someone who's interested in buying, or, whatever the case may be. And I specifically reach out to them.
I'm thinking about that on a very deep level right now. Yeah. A lot of people that have built wealth, they value time. Time is the biggest asset, right? It's the only thing you can't get back. So I believe, at least from a subconscious level, that the reason why your handwritten letters work so well is because they understand and they comprehend the amount of time that you've spent. And they know, okay, this person's just spent half an hour writing a letter to me, right? They could have just had some service send me out an email. But no, you know what? I value the fact that this person gave me their time.
Yep.
And this person is professional. They've got they tick all the boxes. Let's reach out.
Right.
It's really awesome.
And so what I'll do is I'll write them a handwritten letter, and then I'll follow up with a call, and I'll ask them, did you get my letter? And for me, I just try to put myself in a seller's shoes and think about if I was selling a house, what agent would I go with? Would I go with the one who's just sending me a postcard you know what I mean?
Right.
Recent sales, whatever. Or am I going to go with the one that's like, seems to care about my purchase? You know what I mean? Or seems to care about my sale. I'm going to go with that person because this is a pretty big deal, especially when we start getting into the multi-million dollars, right? Like this is a big investment for people. They don't want to just put it in the hands of anyone. And also, I mean, it's also nice if you like the person as well. So I mean, just for myself, I would like a handwritten letter, so that's why I do it. And then I also cold call too. Mojo dialer and everything like that.
Right.
But yeah, like I was saying, I've showed up at people's doors, like, "Hey, do you want to sell your house?" They're like, "Where do I know you from?" And like, I'm kind of like weird. Like, do I say it because this is like weird because I'm door knocking, and then I'll just be like, "I sold the house 2 doors down." They're like, "You were on Netflix. You sold it on it." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Come in." You know what I mean? Like, give me like a full tour of the house, and they're like, besties with me now. So like, it kind of works to my advantage, but
So let's kind of talk about you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right, because the show's very gossip driven.
Yes.
Right, there's a lot of conversation, drama, which is cool, but I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
So obviously you're wearing multiple different hats, right? So one of your hats is you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a real estate agent, and then you're a TV personality.
Yeah.
Right? So you're doing multiple different things.
I know.
And I think something that a lot of people admire, at least about watching these types of shows, is they admire the vulnerability that comes with being a real estate agent, because it's all or nothing, right? These people are like, it's amazing to see you can be getting such huge commissions, but at the same time, you could be making nothing. And that's what these people like to tune into, because you're the people that go out there and risk it all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how do you manage to go out there and risk it all and be a real estate agent, be on TV, be working, and also manage to also be a mother and do all those things? And what would you tell other mothers out there that want to get into real estate?
That is like $1 million question, just because I don't know. I don't know how I do it every day.
Yeah.
I'm managing, you know what I mean? And what I do know is that it can be done. And I think there are certain women that I modeled myself after when like my grandmother was one. But when I first got in the industry, I was searching for women because I was like, okay, who else is doing this? Like, we wear a lot of hats, and I'm like, who else is selling luxury? And then also, not to mention that I'm Black, you know what I mean? And I needed that representation of like, where are the Black women that are selling luxury real estate, that are wearing all of these hats, that are doing all of these things? And I started finding them on Instagram. I started following them. I started studying them and seeing like how they do this. And it can be done, you know? And once I saw that, okay, there are other women out here doing this, you just have to like take it day by day, step by step, and just, I guess, not like overthink it, you know, and it does take having a really good support system as well. That's one thing that I will not take for granted, is that I do have a really amazing support system to help me, with watching my kids and things like that. But, for some women that are single moms and stuff like that, we've got a couple on our cast that are single moms and they still make it happen. Right. I mean, it's just about when you want something, you go after it and you don't stop until you get it, and that's just my mindset. Everything is figure outable, right? And that's what I'm doing. Like, that's why I'm like, that's $1 million question, because I don't have the answer for you. Like, I don't know. I just wear these hats, and I'm just like, I'm there for my kids when they need me. You know, I'm at the PTA meetings. I'm at the, you know what I mean? But at the same time, obviously Rome wasn't built in a day. You know what I mean? And I try not to put too much pressure on myself to have all of it figured out. I don't, you know, and I work my best, and I'm trying to get into time management a little bit better now because I have to. Before that, I was just like, hey, that's my personality. Like, I'm very like go with the flow. I'm like, yeah, I feel like door knocking today. Like, all right, I feel like doing this today. Like, nah, I'm not gonna go. I'm just gonna like go take the kids swimming today. You know what I mean? But like now I can't do that anymore. I have to like time block and put aside different times and start delegating responsibilities to my husband and like, hey, I can't do this today. Like, you got to get the kids. Like, I got to work late. I'm going to be in the office, you know? So it's that kind of thing. But I will name drop a couple of women that when I very first got my license years ago that I found on Instagram, and I'm still friends with them to this day. And they really inspired me because they sell luxury, and I couldn't find other women like that looked like me, that were like kind of seemed like they were like from the same like just mindset as myself, but they were like killing it. And one, her name is Kiana Watson. She's based in Atlanta. And then another one, her name is Lee Mintz, and she's based out of LA. And both of these women were doing exactly what I wanted to do. And all I knew was that I'm selling houses in Victorville, and I'm like, how am I going to get like them? And I would just like slowly start, like, you know what I mean? Like figuring out these things. Also, I love Tracy Tudor as well. She's on $1 Million Listings.
I did a podcast with her once.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like I like, these are women that I really look up to because they figured it out. You know what I mean? So I'm like, in my mind, if someone else has figured it out, I can do it. And I can figure it out as well. So I just like, you know, go with that mindset. And I just every day figure out a little more about, you know, how I'm going to do it and where I'm going to go with it. And now look, you know, ended up on a show, and hopefully that'll end up really, you know, bringing more deals to me and things like that in the future years. Yeah,
no, without a doubt. So cool, because it's like, I was raised by a single mother.
Oh, wow.
And something she always said was, she was like, don't listen with your ears, listen with your eyes.
Okay.
You know, don't listen to what people tell you, watch what they do. Right?
I love that. That's cool. So true. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to make my kids think that I came up with it. Well, so tell her thank you.
No, I mean, what I was going to say, and it's to your point, is that a lot of mothers will have to teach lessons to their kids, right? Yeah. And if you're not out there doing it yourself, you can say as much as you want, but the kid's going to pick up on what it is that you actually do.
Exactly.
So the fact that you're out there doing it, I think that's really awesome. That's such a message that a lot of people won't realize resonates much more with children. Because I always used to see my mum work so hard, and she's literally held like 3 jobs at one time. Wow. And as a kid, I mean, even as a kid, I remember being on the basketball court. I used to play basketball a lot. Your husband's a basketball trainer, right?
Yeah.
So I used to play basketball a lot, and I'd just be on the court, and I'd be like really tired, and I'd be like, fuck, my mum's literally just worked 3 jobs, and she's sitting on the sideline, and she looks really tired.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I need to probably work a little bit harder.
Absolutely.
So what you're doing, you probably don't even realize, but your kids are seeing the level of what you're putting in. And I think it's so awesome. And you know what? That is a really good point, because I bring them to the office with me. Sometimes if I have late nights or, you know, things that like I need to be at the office for all day, our office, you saw, like, it's such a chill vibe. Like, there's a kitchen in there, like the couch, like my daughter, like, she'll put her VR set on, she plays VR, and she'll just be like walking around the office, like playing VR. Like, it's just like, it's like a home vibe too. You know what I mean? So I bring them to the office, and they definitely do see. I know for my daughter, my son's like, whatever, like, yeah, it's mom's office. But for my daughter, she's a little older, she's 11. And I think that for her, it really makes an impression. Like, mom's an entrepreneur. Right. Like, you know what I mean? And that is so important to me, that my kids see me, you know, doing it and making it. And they also see that, like, it's not perfect, and to give yourself grace also, you know what I mean? So yeah. So from your opinion, what have you learned about success that you didn't realize that you would learn? It doesn't feel the way that you think it's going to feel. Like, closing a big deal, it does feel good because, like, you look at the check and everything like that, but all you're doing now is thinking about how you're going to top that. So it's like, there's never a point where I'm like, yes, I've reached success. Or even like on the show, like, yes, I'm on a show. But it's like, okay, I'm on a show, but how am I going to bring it for season 2? Okay, I'm on a show, but like, I got to up my outfits for season 2. You know what I mean? It's like, it's never like, oh yeah, well, I was on a show. Like, no, it's never like, it's always like, you know what I mean? So like, the thing that I used to think was like, if I just have a certain amount of money, I'll be happy. Or if I just have the X, Y, and Z, I'll be happy. But like, it's not the case. Like, you just have to live
and be happy every single day with what you have. Because once you have that, you're not going to be happy with that. Well, I don't know about everybody else. I know from my personality, because you know, high achievers and people with like that go-getter mentality, you're never going to be like, what is it? Complacent. You're never going to be complacent, and you're never going to just be like, I mean, unless maybe like I'm a billionaire or something, but I'm just the type of person that even if I'm a billionaire, I'm going to be figuring out how to be a trillionaire.
Or you'll get bored and be like, oh, she needs to have a trillion. At this point, I'm bored with a billion.
Yeah. Right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, that's the thing about success, is that you never, you think that that's going to make you happy, or you think that all you need is that next thing. Like all you need is that next spot. All I need is that next listing. Like right now, in my mind, I need a double-digit listing. Like I have one coming up at 6 million, but I want something over 10 mil. I haven't had that yet. And that's a point in my career that I haven't. But if you think back, like I just closed a $4 million deal a couple months ago. If you think back to where I was 4 years ago, if you would have told me that, I'd be like, what? Oh my God, yes. Like I'm so excited, right? But now I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get a 10 mil? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it's just like, it's constantly, it just never ceases. Like it's just not gonna go away. So.
It's funny because when you're the underdog, you don't have any expectations, so it's quite easy to move around.
Yes.
You know, if you sell a $4 million home, it's like, whoa, she just sold a $4 million home.
I know, it's a big deal.
Whereas now it's like, oh yeah, she sold a $4 million home. Yeah, she's on selling
Crazy,
OC. So,
right?
Yeah,
I know.
So how do you deal with the expectations that people put on you because you're now on a show, right? Because people have such high expectations of you. How do you manage that?
They do. For a minute, when season 1 first came out, I got caught up in that, and I started like taking on other people's expectations and what they thought. Like I would hear some of the like different videos and stuff that people would make, and I'd be like, wow, these people think like we're like rich, like we're like mega rich, and like we're just like you, like we're just trying to make it, you know what I mean? Like I just sell real estate, like I literally, you know what I mean, like fell into the show. Like it wasn't like people, and then you know it's just, I don't know, it's just like day by day, and you have to like kind of tune that out and not take on other people's expectations of you, and just realize like everyone's walk of life is different, and this is mine, you know, and I might not have another listing for the entire year, and that's what was supposed to happen. You know what I mean? And if I do, or I might have like 10 or whatever, but at the end of the day, whatever that is, my job can't be to satisfy you, because you know, the viewers are basically just brought along for the ride. Right. You know, like all agents, none of them are like, well, I mean, there are some obviously that sell like this. Right. But for most average agents, like you're not like literally selling 1 million deals a year. But when people think because you're on TV, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, dude, it's just, and then like filming is only like a few months. And I'm like, you don't know what happened right after we stopped filming or anything. So it's just like, you kind of have to release the expectations that people have and just say like, this is my life. This is my walk. And like, you guys are just along for the journey, you know?
So it's interesting. The way that you are on the show feels very connected to the way that you are now.
Really?
Yeah, you feel.
Well, that's good to know.
It feels very organic. Okay, right? Like
I've always, you picked up that I'm a genuine person.
Right.
I didn't seem like fake or like over the top.
But do you feel like being on a TV show, they kind of make you almost exaggerate certain parts of your personality?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that like we all signed up for. Like, of course, like some things are gonna be dun dun dun. You know what I mean? Moments, and things are gonna seem like way over dramatic than they are. But then again, like the drama's real. That's like,
oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, the drama's real, you know? And of course, like everybody knows that there's editing involved and everything like that. But like the things that happen, they happen. Yeah. And if we were to peer into half of the people's lives that are watching, they'd have these crazy moments too. We're just like very vulnerable, and we're putting ourselves out there in front of the world for you guys. Like none of us pretended to be perfect people before signing up for this. Absolutely not. No. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's a tough job.
Do you feel like the fans can relate to a lot of you guys? Because I feel like a lot of people can relate to you.
Can they?
But there are some people out there who are like, okay, I physically cannot relate to someone whose father owns X, Y, and Z company and does this and da da da, and they're all from this like crazy wealth background. Yeah. Do you feel like you as an individual, you can really connect with the audience more? Do you think that maybe you might be shining a little bit more in season 2, season 3 because of that?
I would hope so. Like, I really hope so. And I think that there is somebody that can relate to each and every person on the show. Okay. That's what I think. Like, our viewership is so large that there has to be somebody that relates to everyone, right? Or like even like pieces of certain people's personalities. You know what I mean? You might not be able to like stand behind everything that I do or say, but you might respect my work ethic or respect that I'm a mom and I'm a working mom. You know what I mean? Or like there's different things. So I think that there are relatable things about. There are some people on my cast that I don't relate to, but
no. You won't name names, right?
I'm not gonna drop any names. I mean, like I don't relate to everybody, but I can still even find little pieces, and I'm like, I respect that about this person.
No, I feel you 100%.
You know what I mean? I don't agree. I don't get along with you right now, but I respect that about you. So,
what do you think is the difference between a good realtor and a bad realtor?
I think a bad realtor is entitled. A bad realtor is a person who takes the listing just because they know everybody, because they grew up here. They throw it up on the MLS and they don't even do the work behind it. You know how mad I get when I like go, because you know when you're prospecting, you go through expired listings. So daily I go through expired listings. Do you know how mad I get when I go through the expired listings and I see cell phone pictures of something, because this is my market, anything over like $3 million, cell phone pictures of a $6 million house with views. I almost want to pass out. I almost want to pass out just because of the entitlement that just comes with, oh yeah, this isn't a big deal. Where I'm like, are you kidding me? If I had that, I would have the best photographer out here because I need to get that sold.
Right.
Like my name is on this. Like I need to have the most exposure for this property. I need to have, you know, the most showings, and that's not going to give me the most showings. So I feel like that's a bad realtor. Also, I hate realtors who don't answer the phone either. Like even with me being on TV and everything, like I will be like in filming and I'll be like, this is Brandi. And I'm answering the phone. And that's because I'm just not in a place to like miss any business. And I can't see even 20 years from now being that realtor because I'm like, this is what we do. Like we're people connectors, like this, you know what I mean? And it's a huge part of our job. So those are two things that I cannot stand. And I think most realtors will agree with me on that, because the bad MLS pictures have got to stop. The bad MLS pictures have got to stop.
I feel like you can buy a camera at this point, you know what I mean? Like a little point and shoot.
If
like
it's that serious, but
camera.
If you're selling that kind of property, your investment should be a part of, well, photography should be a part of your investment, right? Because it's all about presentation. It's all about first impressions. If you're not even showcasing the property in the right light, you're already putting your seller at a disadvantage. And I'm like, that seller could have been listening to me, and I would treat that listing like my baby.
Yeah,
and I would sell that. You know what I mean? Like, so I just get mad at stuff like that.
Yeah, you could do a sneaky one and hire a photographer to just go to the house and just photograph and then just send it to him and be like, look, please, and put a watermark on it and be like, look, just for the sake of your house looking really bad, just please put it up. But if you do, just switch me in. Get rid of their realtor and put me in there.
But you know what? It's okay, because bad realtors make it easier for me. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'm in a challenge because I'm not from OC. I don't have the luxury. I can't relate and be like, oh yeah, I grew up in a house like this. I can't relate at all, right? But that's the part that I can say. You know what I mean? Is that I will market the hell out of your property, and I will treat this like it's my home that I want to sell. You know what I mean? And that's something that all realtors don't do, especially when they reach a certain level of success. People hire the big names because they're like, oh yeah, well, I want to go with so-and-so, so-and-so, because that's who you're supposed to list with, because that's who you've been like brainwashed to list with. You see their signs all over the place. But what people don't realize is you're getting that person's minion to do the showings for you and stuff like that. You're not even getting their personal touch. That person's probably not even going to answer the phone. You know what I mean? But you have their name on the sign, but you're not going to get them because they're too big for your little $6 million property. They're worried about this 60 mil that they're trying to sell. They're not worried about yours.
Right.
And that's one thing I like about the Oppenheim Group, is that even Jason, like, you know, having a mentor like him, he's very hands-on. I see him at these 60 mils. He's not sending any minions. He's at the appointments, and you know what I mean? Like, I've taken him on listing appointments for like $5 million listings. Meanwhile, he's got like a 40 mil or something. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter, because every listing is important to us at our brokerage. And that's why like I am where I am, because, you know, you got to learn from the best.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, it's so interesting. Before I even got into real estate, I mean, this is a sideways story here, but I was sitting at a coffee shop in LA in WeHo, and I was just chilling. I was just on my laptop doing some work. And then I hear some music coming. And then he's got a Bronco, right? Is that what it is? Yeah. So I see this like top down Bronco driving into the car park. And I'm like, obviously you turn around because you hear the music going on, and then he parks up, and then he's got like 4 like model girls who are like all 5'10", just walking out with him.
up.
And then he walks into the coffee shop, and I was like, damn man, this guy's so cool. And this is before I was even in real estate.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
I want to be him so bad.
Yeah, when I first got to America, I was like, damn. But yeah, something I'd really like to ask you about actually in general, because you've had a career before real estate. So this is interesting to me. So before real estate, in PR, were you receiving a salary or was it all commission based?
No, that's the same. And that, I guess that's just a part of my personality also, is like going after commission-based things. I was a waitress at the time. So I used to work at Houston's, and then I would do PR. And that's why I was saying like I would be gone in the evenings and stuff, because I was going to these events trying to get my new clients.
Right.
And then before my shift at the restaurant, I would be like coming up with like press releases or like writing bios for my clients and things like that. And I was very fortunate in my PR to work under somebody who was really big. So she had to do like the heavy lifting on that, but I was also like her support.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. Do you ever feel like some days, because it's good when it's good, right?
Yeah.
If it's all 100% commission based.
Yeah.
But when it's bad, it's really bad. Do you ever
Yes.
feel like some days you wish you just had a salary?
No.
Never?
No, because I've done that before and I was not happy. I've had, I used to work at 20th Century Fox before they like merged with Disney out in Century City. So I worked there for a couple of years and I was on salary there. And I don't know. It was never for me. The last salary job I had, I was a leasing consultant for like, apartment homes. And the last day I remember sitting down with my manager and she was asking me to stay. She was begging me to stay. And I just told her, this is way before I knew I was going to be on the show. I had no idea. I just told her, real estate is my future. And I'm not even sure. She was like, well, do you I think she was concerned like financially because she knows it's commission. She's like, well, we'll give you a raise. Like, well, and I just said like, there is no amount of money that you could offer me right now for the raise for me to basically like sacrifice my dream. And I didn't even know like how I was going to make it in real estate or that I was, but I was just like, I just knew that this salary was keeping me, like it sounds cliche, but was basically like keeping me away from my dream. You know what I mean? Like that little check that I was getting was, it was stifling anything that I wanted for my future, my freedom, not even just like financial freedom eventually, because that's another goal why everybody gets into real estate, right? Because we all aim to have financial freedom one day, but not even just that, but like my personal freedom. Like I will spend 12 hours in the office at the Oppenheim Group and it'll feel like I was there for 2. But when I had that 9 to 5, when I tell you at 4:55, I was like, my purse is packed. I'm ready to go because like, I just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would be thinking about my own, like just how I'm going to like get out of that. So like, I don't think there's a big enough salary in the world. It's just like being an entrepreneur is just a different type of beast. And like, it just like, it kind of like lights a little fire in me. It's exciting.
I love that. It's so interesting. I feel like it's a personality thing.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people are happy to sell themselves to a salary and there's nothing against, I don't have anything against it, but I think it comes from a perspective of a lot of people will do what they need to do at work, right? If you've got a salary and your boss tells you to do something, you do it. Right. And then when it comes to actually you starting your own thing, right? You end up breaking the promises to yourself.
Right.
You work harder for someone else than you would for yourself.
I know.
And I think a lot of people that want to be real estate agents or want to be entrepreneurs think, okay, yeah, like, let me just try it out. I don't really know what I want to do about the money and this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then they end up doing that, leaving their salary job, going into a commission-based job, and then quitting on themselves.
Yeah.
Right? You tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it. And there's a level of discipline that's involved that you have to have within your personality. And I think that's something that innately you have. And that's why you probably enjoy this so much. Yeah,
that's definitely very true, because there were times that I wanted to give up on myself or just say like, this isn't for me, because the money doesn't come, as much as you'd like it to sometimes, right? Until you really start making it. But I think you just have to have faith. I have a very strong faith, in God. And I think you just have to also rely on yourself. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I'm going to do is bet on myself.
Yes.
Like I would much rather bet on myself than bet on my boss or my manager to like let my future pan out to be like what, like life is short and I'm going to trust you with the next like 20 years of my life. Like, no, like if I'm going to bet on anybody, I'm going to bet on myself. Right. You know what I mean? Like
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
It's actually a term. It's called a locus of control. So I studied it. It's in psychology. It's whereby essentially if you have a high locus of control, you believe that you have a lot of control over the things around you. And if you have a low locus of control, you feel as if the things around you have a very large effect on the outcome of your life.
Okay.
So a lot of people with a high locus of control are those entrepreneurs, are those people who feel like they control everything. So like, for example, when we had all the craziness that happened around the world, 2019, 2020, when everything shut down.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I was like, why can't I control the world? I want to get out there.
I know.
And I was like, wow, I'm a real high locus of control dude. I need to chill out a little bit.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I've never heard of that before. But that, I mean, I guess you are right, you know, and I realized that like I can't allow others to control my life. You know what I mean? And I'm just really fortunate that this happened, you know, that even the show, because like I said, like I didn't plan on that or anything like that. It was just another avenue for me to expose myself and to find the next level, you know, in real estate. And that's what I did. It's just about being intentional, you know, and like trusting the process, you know, and I always try to tell myself I didn't come this far, you know, just to come this far. And like, even though it seems like you're capped off, like have you ever felt like that? Like you're hitting a ceiling or you're hitting a wall and you're like, dude, like I'm just trying to bust past the ceiling. Like, how do I get to the next level? And you just have to trust the process and understand that it's going to come. And if you do the work, like I just believe in that. You do the work, that it'll eventually happen for you. Fully. You know? Yeah. Fully.
And I think being someone that doesn't come from wealth, I feel like you have to try so much harder in order to get the same result. And I feel like there's that knowledge gap. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to be learning a lot more, because I feel like if you come from wealth, it's natural. Like you're like 10, you're like, oh yeah, my daddy's doing his tax returns now. And where I come from, you know, my family didn't really even know how to use a credit card. Do you know what I mean?
Like you have to work twice as hard to get what some people would just get naturally. You know what I mean? Not only first getting the education, right, behind it, and then learning like the things that are unspoken about, like the tax returns and like things like that, like the things that you're like, oh, like that's this. You don't know how many times I like years back would be in rooms sitting at meetings and I'd be like, I have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. I'm just gonna sit here and act like I do. You know what I mean? And then eventually it just started soaking in. And that's why I told you I used to admin for, you know, somebody who had a really big brokerage, because I would just, I would sit in these meetings and I would hear this real estate talk. But along with that, you also learn like financial literacy. And then you start learning how these people live and how they manage their money. And that was something I wasn't taught because we didn't grow up with money in my household. You know what I mean? My parents worked hard, but I didn't have it made at all. You know what I mean? So they didn't know how to manage finances. They were just trying to make it. You know what I mean? So you start learning like what wealthy people do, how they invest their money and how they keep their money. You know what I mean? And I just even learned that from my sellers. You know, if I'm selling their house and I just see like what career they do, or you know what I mean? What kind of business avenues or ventures they have. It's all interesting to me because you just have to constantly be learning, you know, and that coming from like humble beginnings, that is half of the journey. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
you know, and it also, coming from humble beginnings also helps you really appreciate where you are, because like there's so many times where like we'll be in a meeting or something like that and I'll hear another agent say, yeah, that one's only a $2 million, you know, and I'm just like, we're talking about $2 million. Are you kidding me right now? You know what I mean? When I was a kid, I would be like, scrounging around looking for $2. Like we're talking about $2 million property right now that this person owns. And we're talking about just a small little condo. What? You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, my level of gratitude is it's really large. Like I'm very like appreciative every single day of what I have and, you know, what I get to build. Like I don't look at it like, oh, I have to go to work. Like, no, I get to do this for my job. And that's incredible.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like something that a lot of people need to grasp is that learning is really the single most important thing that you can do when you don't have money.
Yes.
Right? Because if you don't have a lot of people that come from money have the luxury of making mistakes. Oh gosh, I made a mistake. I lost 25 grand. Not an issue. Dad, I need right. Whereas for us, we have to be so much more efficient with every decision we make. So we need to learn all the things, you know, ahead of time so that we don't fall over, because if we fall over and we end up making a mistake that costs us money, that really damages us.
Super. And I've had to learn the hard way too, you know, and that's the thing, because we don't have that background of education. Sometimes you don't make smart investments or decisions because you didn't have anyone to teach you and you don't know right from wrong. You learn by action and by course. So that's why like having a mentor in the industry or having somebody who, you can follow their footsteps is like it's just super beneficial because you don't know, you know what I mean? You don't know at all. And that's another reason why I got into real estate as well, because I'm very personally interested in generational wealth.
Right.
That's also something when you come from like, having like a poorer start, you don't know anything about generational wealth. Why would you be learning about generational wealth when you're just trying to make it day by day? Your parents are living paycheck to paycheck. You don't know anything about generational wealth. So when I started learning, this is why half of the people in, certain areas are so wealthy, because they are investing this way. This is what they're doing, So now I'm very passionate about generational wealth, and I teach it to people. And that's something that like in the future, I hope to like build more, more on that part, because like financial literacy, generational wealth, it's so important. And, it's just what's missing, and like in the Black community, that's just something that we aren't taught.
Right.
I had to learn that as an adult. When I purchased my first house with my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, like, generational wealth. Like this is what people do. You know what I mean? As an adult.
Right.
So I had no idea. But they don't teach you these things in high school, right?
Yeah.
The things that we really need to know.
And I really think there's a big fight going on, right? And it's within ourselves.
Right.
Because I think now more than ever, right? Like being on social media as a user and also being on social media as a quote unquote influencer, right? I've really learned to value that attention is currency, right? So I always say at the end of every single one of my videos, or at least the majority of my videos, I'll be like, knowledge is power. I came up with this like catchphrase and I went with it.
Yeah.
And I believe it. I genuinely believe it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it more, and I heard this fantastic quote, and it made me realize, right? Knowledge isn't free because you have to pay attention.
Yo. Ooh.
Right?
That's good. Look at you.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, whoa. And then I realized, and attention is currency. Attention is our single most valuable currency, because that's our time that we can't get back.
It really is.
So
exactly.
A lot of it comes from, if you want to develop yourself as an individual within your career, if you want to get out of the position you're in, if you want to make generational wealth, it's about where you put your attention. That's where the power is. Knowledge isn't power. Your attention is power.
Right. It's where your focus flows, and what you focus on and what you give attention to is where like you notice things growing, you know what I mean? And that's something that I used to struggle with also, because I tended to be a pessimist in the past. And that was challenging, because I learned that from like my family, you know what I mean? And obviously you're growing up struggling and stuff like that. It's not the most like optimistic situation. Like, yeah, we're going to be millionaires one day. Like you don't hear that kind of conversation. Yeah. So I had to start like giving my attention to things that, would elevate me, or would, give me new business opportunities or ideas and things like that, because where your attention goes is and that's where your success lies. So you're absolutely right. Like that's 100%. It was like a mind shift thing that I had to go through, because I tended to be like super negative. I'd be like, man, you can't do this. Look at these people. You can't do that. And that's why I told you I had to find people and study them and say, no, if they could do this, you could do this. And it's like find like a well-oiled machine. You know what I mean? You have to remind yourself when those negative thoughts start creeping in that no. Push that out, get that out of there, because once it starts infiltrating and taking over, it's like a cloud. It is. It's like a dark cloud, Truthfully. You know what I mean? And like you need the sun to come back in and kind of like remind you that you have a purpose, and that you can achieve anything, and I see people like Jason, and I see people that are like super, that just do so well for themselves. And that's because they have a different mindset. Right. It's really all about like your mindset and where you put your focus and your energy and your attention. And once you have that part figured out, it's a challenge though. It's a climb because things happen, that cause you to kind of take a couple steps back, because now you're thinking negative, but you just have to continue on and, not let that overpower you.
Well, it's so interesting what you're saying, because essentially what I'm hearing is you are what you consume, right? And by you taking that leap and moving to OC, right, you're not conscious about it, and no one's conscious about it, because every day we walk around and we're just kind of living our lives, right? Yeah. But we are consuming all the time, right? And when you're around someone like Jason, who's selling $1 million homes and doing all these different types of things, you're consuming that energy, you're consuming his tenacity towards what he's doing. You're consuming the way that he does things, the way that he holds his meetings, the way that he said certain things. And then when you're moving to a place like OC, you know, it's like, it takes a lot of evidence to have belief for a lot of people. And I think sometimes if you're someone that's in a position whereby you're not really making success of your life, all it takes is for you to move somewhere where you can see people doing it.
Change your surroundings. You know that quote that they say, like you never want to be like the smartest in the room. You know what I mean? Like you want to make sure that you're in an area where you can always constantly learn from someone, or like I loved joining the Oppenheim group. It was very challenging because I didn't speak the language, you know, that I felt like a lot of people were speaking with these sellers and things like that. But now I can hang with all of them, and that only leveled me up. And that challenge, which was like almost like it was scary at first. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, I will never forget knocking on my very first door. And I had a friend with me. Her name is Lauren. She's also on the show. And, but Lauren's from OC. I'm not. And I'm like, we're walking through these amazing streets, and you can just see ocean view. And I'm like, I can see this glass house. Like you can literally see through the house and see like views in his backyard. And I'm like, I'm about to go knock on this man's door. What the heck? You know what I mean? And then once I did it, the man was so nice. Yeah. He's so nice. He's a friend now. I call him all the time and follow up with him. But you just have to like break through that. But I would have never even thought that was a thing if I stayed at like my smaller brokerage from when I first got my license.
Right.
I would have never. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, this is my mind. We sell these type of homes, and this is how we go about them. We send flyers and we do open houses. But once I started going around the OC people, and I was like, oh, we're door knocking these multi-million-dollar houses. Okay, we're showing up in their front door. And we're doing this, you know what I mean? It's just like, it takes you out of the box, and it is very scary. There were times where I was very scared, very uncomfortable, because Jason does team meetings, right? And you see them on the show. Yeah. So for probably like my first like 4 team meetings or something, I was like, I didn't have business yet. And I was just new there. And I would feel myself like very nervous, because he goes around, he puts you on the spot. And we would go around to people, and they'd be like, 3 listings coming up. 5 mil, a 10 mil, a little 3 mil, and I'll be like, it's about to be my turn. I'm gonna pass out. You know what I mean? And but that motivated me to like, I'm not showing up to the next team meeting without something. Right. I'm not showing. So I would stay in the office. I would work. I would cold call. And Jason used to say like, you guys don't need to cold call. Like we don't really do that much. Like he wasn't really into cold calling, but I didn't have another avenue. I didn't have a sphere of influence in OC. Like I didn't have any of that. So I was like, Jason, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree, because I'm gonna do that. Sure enough, here I am. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you just have to like push past that fear, because there were so many times where I'll be like, we're having a team meeting, I don't want to show up. Because like I don't have anything to tell them. You know what I mean? And now you just have to give yourself grace in that moment and say, this is not my final destination. This is not where I'm going to end up. You know what I mean? But me sitting there with everyone else giving their updates about these amazing things that they had going on motivated me. But if I was sitting in a meeting and I was the best one and I had all these things going on, then maybe that wouldn't be the best room for me, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So me sitting there and being nervous and feeling like bad every time I left the meeting, because like everybody else has all these amazing things going on, and I'm like calculating their commission in my head, and I'm sitting here like, damn. You know what I mean? Like it motivated me. So it's just, and now I sit in those team meetings and I'm happy. I'm proud. Yeah. I'm like ringing the bell. You know what I mean? So
your level of discomfort is what's now made you comfortable.
Yeah.
In the sense of, you were so uncomfortable in those meetings. That drove you to then work harder to now become comfortable in those meetings. Yeah. And now we need to get to that next meeting, whatever that is, that's going to make you even more uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I believed in that quote that they say everything that you want is on the other side of fear. Because I didn't believe it when I very first heard it, but I started to like literally, that was my life. Like I started to see that, and it proves to be true that anything that I was afraid of, after I went after that, it made the most sense. You know what I mean? So it's just, you have to do scary things.
Can I ask you a question that I think a lot of real estate agents would benefit from? How do you get over the initial fear of being on camera?
I guess you either care about it or you don't, because there are some people that I don't think ever get over that. Right. I think for me, I'm just a really authentic and genuine person. So it was almost, so I got over the fear because I was on a little appearance on Selling Sunset for like a second. We like got invited to their finale. Like we had just got told that like we were on the show. So they were like, oh, come, you might as well come to like our filming of like season, I can't remember, 4 maybe, finale. And we're like, oh my gosh, like so nervous. They're like, you guys are going to be mic'd up. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was mute for like the first like hour. I would not talk because there was a mic on me. And I was like, oh my God, there's a mic on me. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what to do. That went out the window like immediately. Like once I started talking, once I realized that like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what, so I'm saying like, you either care or you don't, because
Something
like
clicked.
something just clicked, and like, I just stopped being afraid of it. And now I'm almost afraid that I'm not afraid of it. I'm like, you have to remember that you have a mic on.
Oh, you almost get too relaxed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You get too relaxed. So that's where people get to see like some of your little too raw, moments, like, you know what I mean? And like, like I know like my family hates when I cuss on TV, but like I cuss in real life. So like, that's, you know what I mean? And like, there's a camera on me, there's a mic on me, and like, I forget that I'm mic'd, and like, I might get in like a heated argument, or like, not even just a heated argument, I might say something funny, and like, so it's like moments like that like, it's just, you either can do it or you can't. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. Like I don't think that there's like a getting like over the fear. It's just like, you just have like, you have to remember what you're doing it for. And then once you remember what you're doing it for, are you really going to care?
Yeah. That's right. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because there's so many real estate agents now that are like, you know what? I give up because I have to be a social media influencer as well as being a real estate agent in order to be successful. I've got to be good in front of the camera in order to be successful. And it's like, you can either give up or you can realize why you're doing it, not the fact that you're going to look a certain way when you're doing it.
Yeah. I just released all that control, and I just said, people are going to perceive me however they perceive me anyway, right? So like, the best I could do is just be myself. Okay. And at the end of the day, like, this is for your entertainment, and they might chop it up and make me look however they're going to make me look, but like, you know what I mean? I've already released that control, and I know who I am. I know what I meant in that moment. I know who I am. You weren't there, and I just have to kind of like live with that. But I'm not gonna like make it seem like it's easy, because getting the backlash and being under the public eye is hard. Right. That's much harder than just having a camera like facing you or having a mic on you. Like dealing with other people's opinions on a massive scale for the first time.
How do you
it's
cope
very
with
jarring.
That? Do you lose sleep? Is this something that actually affects you?
Yeah, I did. When season 1 first came out, I did. But you get over that, because you realize that these people are actually very invested in their viewers, which is why they have so much commentary. And that's good, because if they didn't care, they didn't have anything to say, then we wouldn't have anybody watching. So that means that the producers did a very good job of evoking this emotional attachment, to some of our like roles and characters and people who we are on the show. So,
well, honestly, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you
today.
Oh my gosh,
I loved it. Yeah, me too.
All right, awesome. Well, I feel like that's a wrap for the episode.
Yeah.
I was usually at the end of most episodes, I'm like, okay, so where can we find you? I feel like we're going to find you on Netflix, so it's not an issue there. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me.